Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. So today we're finishing out our March Madness canning with strawberry jam. It's one of the top favorites around here, and it doesn't last very long on the shelves. So I always have to make in mass quantities. I think I got 2, 4, 6. I put away 12 pints about a week ago. Yeah, they're almost gone. So it really doesn't last long, but they always eat it a little bit faster when I first put it on the shelf because they're so excited it's back in stock. But yeah, so because they go through it that fast, I have to make sure I stock up as much as I possibly can. Now I could get berries locally. This is from the fruit truck, so these came out of Florida. But to buy locally sometimes is not necessarily cheaper. I think last year we went, it was like $140. It was ridiculous. So these were a little bit more reasonably priced, especially for something like, bulk batch and all that. If I was just going to go get some strawberries to entertain with or have on the weekend, then yeah, I would probably go locally and get some because those over there are very good. But to try to afford $200 worth of jam is really not cost effective. So, and then you still got to put all your other stuff in too, and buy your jars. So what I do to cut down on a little bit of that mashing once it starts to cook down is I go ahead and I chop my strawberries up in my food processor. And when I say chop, there's still a very good consistency of berry there. So I'm not trying to make strawberry juice. I'm just trying to make it easier when it comes time to start mashing them down when we get into jam phase. So this is a very simple recipe. Lots of berries, lots of sugar. This is not a low sugar, no sugar. I know there's a couple of them out there, and if that's what you need, then it's still better to have, fresh strawberry jam on your counter that you made than buying the store-bought stuff. Because I actually was reading one the other day, and they snuck some high fructose corn syrup in it again. So reading labels has become all of our part-time jobs. So I would still, again, I use organic cane sugar for this. I know there's probably arguments against that too, but I'm also not sitting here, eating it by the half gallon every night either. Should still have treats in life. So I make this up, and we actually will use this on our ice cream. We'll use it in our English muffins, just your normal breakfast food, sometimes just a treat. Whip up our heavy cream and then put some with heavy cream too. It's kind of nice for a treat. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can eat it once you turn it into jam, because I know we kind of think like jam and we think about breakfast foods, but you can really use it a bunch of different ways. So I wanted to share my recipe with you guys of what I've done, because this doesn't use any pectin, and we will be using the steam canner to finish up and can these. So I'm going to get the rest of these berries chopped up and in the pot, and then when we get to the next step in the process and start cooking those berries down, I'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my strawberries in here. I've already got my candy thermometer in here. If you don't have a candy thermometer, there is a way that you can still test the jam to see if it's set up, but the candy thermometer is definitely the easier way to go. Now, while I have it attached to the side of my pot right now, I do move it out more to the center so I can read it as I'm going, but it's kind of nice that it clips to the pot so that way it doesn't fall down in there. So we're just going to kind of get this going and get it heating up. And then once it gets a nice steady, I wouldn't say necessarily a boil to it, but you can tell that it's warm. Then I start working my sugar in, and I still keep my temperature kind of back. We're a little bit below medium at this point because I'm not trying to burn my strawberries. But once we get that temperature up, then we'll slowly stir the sugar in. And once that sugar has stirred in and incorporated, we'll turn our heat up just a little bit and watch it until it gets to that 220 mark. Now there are other ways. Like my Amish friend told me that you can boil a pot of water and then take your temperature at where the pot is boiling and add 9 degrees to it, and that's technically where your jam will set. Now, I know a lot of books tell you 220, so I tried that method in Pennsylvania, and it actually set up quite nicely, but I didn't have success here. So maybe it's different out this way, but I know there are other ways. And then of course you've got the freezer method too, where you can put a plate in the freezer and you can put your jam on it, or the spoon method where you can put spoons in the freezer and check it as well. But candy thermometers really aren't that expensive, so that's kind of the route I went, because then I could take the guesswork out of it, because there is nothing more defeating than doing all this hard work and it all doesn't set right and you end up with strawberry juice. So I'm just going to slowly keep working this together, and then we're going to add that sugar in. I do always try to make sure that I make it in a really high rimmed pot. So I would not be making my jam up to this level, because when it really starts to boiling at that right somewhere around 201 to 215, it'll start splattering at you, and well, it sticks to you quite nicely and burns. So I always recommend making sure that the pot that you have is almost twice the depth of the strawberry or the jam or whatever you're going to be making. So that way, if it does boil back, it's not splattering as high and as fast at you. Getting burned is no fun. So this is starting to warm up. So like I said, we're just going to start to stir our sugar in. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of watch this and keep stirring it, and then watch the thermometer, and I'll come back once we get closer to 220. So you see, as we're getting closer, it's starting to boil. And at this moment, your fruit is kind of floating to the top because it's made the juice with all that sugar. So what we're going to do is, once we hit our 220 mark, we will remove it quickly from the heat, and then we'll just let it sit for about 4 to 5 minutes, slowly stirring the fruit back in. Now what that does is that makes sure that your fruit actually suspends within your jam, and you don't end up with all your fruit rising to the top in the process. It'll kind of almost gel it into place, kind of weight it down, if you will. It's not a perfect science, but it does kind of help from, like, when you open up your jars, all your fruit's not sitting at the top of them, and the bottom's more of like a jelly. Let's check our temperature. So we're right at about 210. And again, I just kind of keep stirring it. Being careful to watch out for the geysers that pop up, because if they do spew up, they will burn you. So make sure you keep something nearby should you get burned in this process. I also kind of keep stirring it to keep it from boiling over. Okay, so we hit 220. So what we're going to do now is I'm just kind of letting my bubbles all go down. And then you're just going to slowly stir this. Now be careful, right? Because you can have pockets of air in there and they can bubble back at you. So you just got to be careful. Make sure you don't burn yourself. And we're just going to kind of lightly stir this. We don't want to put air bubbles in it. So we're just going to kind of stir it so our fruit kind of falls back down into our jam. And that's why I like this paddle type of spoon spatula thingy I've got here. I'd say it's a spatula, but it's not a very good spatula. But it is nice for this because you can just kind of push your fruit down and finish. But what you're not going to want to do is, aggressively stir it and make air in it. You see, you can start to see some of the gel coming to the top more. Now you can skim this foam off. Just being careful that you're not pulling your fruit out too. You get a little bit of it, it's not the end of the world. See why I like this spoon, spatula. It's kind of like this spork of spoon and spatulas. Alright, now that I have the majority of the foam out, we can see our fruit. And we're just going to kind of stir this in. We're just trying to let it cool slightly so that fruit settles back down in there before we start jarring it up. Okay, so we stirred that down for its 4 to 5 minutes. So now our fruit is no longer sitting on top of our mixture. Our jars are clean and sterile. And now we're going to start jarring our goodies in. We're going to leave a 1/4 inch of headspace on these. So I like this silver funnel because it's right at where I need to be for a 1/4 inch. And they have those little tools in your canning kits too that help you measure. You do it long enough, you can almost look at the jar and see where you need to be. But if you're just starting out, you're going to need to have a way to measure. Now we're going to wipe the rims on these. I will kind of stir around in them too to make sure there's no air bubbles as I'm plopping this in. But when we wipe the rims with this, because it's a jelly consistency or jam consistency rather, or sweets or whatever, I don't wipe my rims with vinegar. I also don't can with vinegar in my water when I pressure can. I don't like what it does to my rims long term. But I know that's a personal preference, right? So I'm going to get the rest of these jarred up and then get that steam canner rolling. Now we're just going to let this rise up to temperature of where it is supposed to be on my fruit saver for my altitude, which is zone 1. Once it gets there, we're going to start our timer for 15 minutes because normally, or excuse me, 20 minutes because normally it's 15 minutes, but because I'm at a higher altitude, I have to go an additional 5 minutes. So we're going to let these process. I'm going to wash up some more jars. I'm going to keep this on a low simmer because we've got a couple more to jar up. And when it's all said and done, I'll come back and show you the final product. So this is always a fun game to play because everybody tells me with different vegetables and fruits and stuff farm animals like, but mine never seem to like. Apparently Bean wants some strawberry tops. So I have the strawberry tops from everything I made. So let's see if Brown, here comes Petunia. See if we can get a close-in shot on her. Come on, Brownie. That's Lily Brown and Petunia Brown. And that's Winston Brown. And that's the neighbor's bull 50. Here comes Petunia. Hi, Petunia. All right, Lily. Are you going to like the strawberries? Uh-oh. What are you doing? Uh-oh. She didn't like that cat. Hi, Petunia. Come here, Lil. What do you think? Whoa. What do you think? No? Not a fan of it? Oh. Oh, you're doing a terrible job at this game, ma'am. Alright, she doesn't like strawberries. Hi, Petunia. Winston. Are you going to eat the strawberries, buddy? Come here, bud. What do you think? You like strawberries? Petunia, that is not how we drink milk. That's the firing squad. You want some? Ma'am? Come here, sir. You want some strawberries? Bean, you want some strawberries? No? No. My cows don't like fruit. You read all the stuff and they say they'll eat them, but mine have never liked. Alright, let's go see who else might like. Okay, so we come down to the sheep palace. Oh, happy sheep. Scaredy sheeps. Come here, Mama. What do you think? You like strawberries? Huh? You like strawberries? Bean. What is that, Mama? So this one right here is our friendly one. Everybody else is kind of skittish. They're always interested in the cat. Hi, little one. Come here. Oh, goodness. Scary strawberries. What do you think? Oh, yes, nice. This has been an extremely skittish herd since the moment we got him. She's about the only one that'll let us touch her. But she's mama. Those two back there are scared of themselves. Nobody's liking the strawberries. Wait. We might have a biter. What? You want more? You're not even eating what you got. What are you doing? You're as silly looking as your daddy. There's a whole bunch of girls in here. You can see the boys already. The boys usually, now this breed's not supposed to have horns in the female, but it does happen from time to time. But you can tell the boys have already gotten their horns coming out pretty quick. We got 2 boys this time and the rest are all girls. I'm trying to keep them in here to kind of work with them to make them friendly, so they're all kind of like mama and at least let us pet them. Alright, let's go see who else might like some. This is one of our rams. What do you think, buddy? You like strawberries? This way you can't always believe what you read. What are you doing, bud? What's wrong, buddy? What's wrong? What's wrong? What are you doing, psycho? Alright, ramifications. What do you think, happy boy? You want strawberry? Huh? You want a strawberry? He's like, nope, I want your kneecap. Alrighty, there we go. 1 sheep. Well, 1 ram. Oh, high ramifications. What are you doing, you goofball? Come on, you want another one? You see, these can be a nice treat. So since he did like them, I'll throw him a couple in there. Yummy. Yummy. Alright, you're psycho. Okay. Apparently Bean likes doing chores. Follows me all over the place. And these guys, I'm raising them like meat birds. They're ready to be butchered. But they're not usually too big on some things. We'll see. What do y'all think? Scary strawberries? Chickens always like red things. So these were the freebies that one of our hens came back with. Like I said, I'm raising them like meat birds. So they're ready to go. Because I've been trying to raise them just like meat birds. We move them every day. They've been all over this yard, as you can see, all the places they've been before. So they get plenty of exercise, but there's so many of them. She came back with like 14 babies, and of the 14 babies, like 9 of them were roosters. I don't need 9 roosters running around my yard, so yeah. So we put them in here, and we're gonna raise them like that. So let's go back inside and finish out our jam. Bean says he wants to go too. What are you doing, Bean? Alright, I'll see you back inside. Okay, so it just goes to show, can't trust Google, right? Because Google says cows, sheep, and everybody just eat up strawberries. But apparently mine are the exception to the rule. So out of the 16 pints of strawberries that we started with, we ended up canning up 21 pints. 3 of them I'm just going to go ahead and stick in the fridge, because if you don't want to can them and you want to make this on a much smaller batch, then they'll last in the fridge for about 3 months. So if you just wanted to do a small batch with maybe just, 1 quart of strawberries to probably 3.5 cups of sugar or something like that, because the recipe calls for 3 quarts of strawberries to 6 cups of sugar, and of course I triple batch that. But if you wanted to go it down even even smaller, you could go back just a little bit, especially if you just wanted to put some up in your fridge. Now, when it's done, this was the last batch that I did, and you see it's got some movement to it, but it's not, soupy. So this was actually, they're going through this pretty quick, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and get more made up. So I hope you enjoyed this. I've had fun doing the March Madness canning event. Thank you again, Constance, for putting this all together, and everybody else that participated. It's been fun. When I get a moment to catch up, there's a bunch that I've flagged that I want to go back and watch myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed seeing all the animals. I'll see you next time. Have a great night.